Yes, people, welcome back to another episode of That Gunners Talk. And we're here recovering 24 hours after Arsenal's defeat to West Ham at home at the Emirates. But we just want to do this video to touch base overall with the fans and really see where the fans, where your head is at, ladies and gentlemen, and really give you our perspectives on where our head is at. First of all, introducing my boy KP. KP, as always, how are you feeling today, brother?
Reality has set, man. Reality has set.
Mhm.
And I think there's a certain calm that comes with it, even though there's a lot of disappointment. But um, a lot to talk about. Season's not necessarily over, but it feels like it.
Feels
And
like
I
it, yeah.
guess, yeah, just a lot to analyze and see where we can go from there.
Well, we
But
have a
yeah,
lot to get into. We have a lot to get into. But first of all, we're still talking about the Premier League fallout from today. Um, First of all, we have Forest who dropped points today. They lost at Newcastle, as well as Liverpool. They picked up a vital win of no goal, 11 points clear with a game in hand. I don't think we're in a title race anymore. I just think we're in it. We're comfortably should be finishing top four, but we're just the second best team in the league this season potentially. Hopefully we or better we end that. And Forest, who would have been able to close the gap to 3 points today, it remains at 6 points with a loss today for them. Overall, KP, how the weekend has shaped up. You can give me your overall feelings about maybe the performance, anything you want to add on from yesterday, anything you saw today, maybe watching over highlights or hearing someone's thoughts or analysis from yesterday's performance you want to add to anything you said yesterday.
uh, I guess not necessarily yesterday. The problems. I think yesterday we kind of spoke a lot in detail, and a lot of our feelings. The performance was poor. Like overall, I feel like the first half was a little bit encouraging. The first 20 minutes, I thought like maybe we were, it wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. But as the game went on, it was just poor and just more poor. I mean, I didn't have a certain level of intensity and urgency that I would have thought that like the opportunity based on Liverpool dropping points in the week and us playing first would have presented, but we didn't. And ultimately, uh, as much as I spoke about the performance last night, it all bottles down to obviously the fact that we have a lot of injuries, most notably to all our four most starting or main attackers, which obviously is going to influence what we're able to do in the attacking third, but
Yep.
also the fact that the club neglected bringing in anybody in the January window after only bringing in Raheem Sterling in the summer window, which was already something that we discussed aimlessly and relentlessly during the summer window about our need to bring in a forward and the type of forwards we wanted to bring in, and maybe one or two. We ended up only bringing one, which was Sterling, and then nobody in January. And now, still with no sporting director being appointed or any like report of who's going to be that person, and with the season all but over, obviously we still have Champions League to play for, which, as you said, like it's a knockout competition. We have a tie against PSV, a team that we beat in the past a couple of times. So it's not, with all due respect to them, that it's not a tie that I'm necessarily fearful of. But obviously,
Yeah.
with our attack, every game that we play, it's an unknown. Realistically, like the knowns is that maybe we have a quality defense. I think one thing that I will highlight, maybe just from the game before we can move on, is obviously Calafiori's performance. Obviously coming in, uh, wasn't the greatest. Obviously, I'm not going to obviously get onto him because he's not a player that's playing week in, week out, but he's a player that we invested, a good amount of funds in the summer. And obviously, with Lewis Skelly playing that position week in, week out, showing quality performances that we talk about quite often. Obviously, him coming out of the firing line just for one game, and Calafiori, obviously, albeit not getting too close to Wan-Bissaka, who is a right back, and allowing him to do some jinky and put a nice ball into the box. Obviously, it's from his fault. But it's just a lack of quality. Obviously, I know you're probably going to want to transition into the Odegaard conversation and obviously just the
Well,
whole conversation and the whole getting onto that. Obviously, our
not
thoughts.
specifically. I didn't want to transition into that just yet. I actually do want to save that because it's actually I do want to take a little bit of some fallout from the game that I have been hearing, and I was more so going to ask you a question because you might have a better understanding of the situation than me having been to the Emirates on multiple occasions this season, just to even say. But I've heard a lot of talk about fans online, especially fans in England, speaking about the ballot system. and how it has tremendously affected the atmosphere at the Emirates. Me, I've only watched the games from TV. I've only followed and supported from across the pond. You have been to games. You knows what it feels like to be there. So let explain to me something about the ballot system, because yesterday I don't think that yesterday's atmosphere is down to maybe fans or coming from overseas or from wherever, and or for tourists, some may say. I don't think that atmosphere is down to fans. I think even when you come out of the ground and you see platforms like AFTV, fans that are on there that go week in, week out, I know are contributing towards the atmosphere. Not saying that they're bad fans, but saying that the performance on the pitch has to have some kind of effect to what the fan feels and what the fan emotes towards players. Like, for example, that performance, it was not only slow, it was lethargic, and we had 2 shots on target. What are the fans going to whip up? Fans normally get whipped up when they see shots on target, they see us testing a goalkeeper, you see a goal, or you see a hard tackle. But we didn't have to put in a hard tackle. We didn't have to make any crucial saves. We weren't under the cosh, and it's West Ham, so I hope not. But again, we didn't do anything in the attacking phase of the game to really convey that the fans should be whipping up the crowd. Give me your thoughts on maybe the ballot system, if you understand it, and maybe just the overall atmosphere opinion, if you even have one.
Yeah, obviously the ballot system, when it first got introduced, obviously changed, the access in terms of how many ticks are like. Obviously, it did affect something in the sense of like I know we used to have the Ashburn Army, I think it was, which were those group of people that used to bring obviously the drums, and they used to lead the chants, and obviously there's still a section of them that come, but it's not as huge as it was in that 22-23 season, and they used to bring a lot of atmosphere, which used to obviously lead the chants, which obviously everyone else used to pick up on. But not just looking at them, obviously the football has changed. Obviously, we saw that from last season into this season. Obviously, this season more for a different reason than last season, but we've gone to a more slow, controlled, type of football. We've not played, the risk, swashbuckling, high intensity, potentially, give up spaces and areas to other teams type football that we, want to see and was accustomed to see and have seen this team play. And obviously, me being at the stadium, obviously the ballot system, I feel like it's the same thing, because it makes it harder for both fans who always go and both foreign fans to get tickets anyway. So even if there are foreign fans there, they just probably got the tickets as hard as the fans that are here. When I've been at the stadium for a couple of times this season, the question that I've always said about the atmosphere, obviously, is the fact of the matter. I feel like, one, we're not playing good enough football that makes fans ignore this fact, which is in that first 22-23 season, no one had the expectation that Arsenal were actually going to win the league or go on to win the league, even after the first 15 games or so. So us as fans, obviously, were taking that season as a free hit, because we're overachieving what we all expected that season. So it becomes fun, because once you kind of know that you are gonna get what you expected, and now you're overachieving that, you start to get to that moment of hope. And obviously when we got to that stage where we're a couple of games down and we're still top, you still hope, and you're thinking, okay, you're gonna get over the line. Fast forward to the last season, this season, where we're now expected to kind of challenge, or we're expected to kind of go for the league, and we know that we can do it. It's a different kind of pressure when you're watching the game, and you don't want to drop these points, and you're watching our team and we're 0-0 and we're moving lethargic, or there's no quality in the attack and stuff, and the other team are still in the game. It's a Premier League team, and any one chance, any one mistake, and it can lead to a goal. So it leads to that edginess that fans have, and that's understandable. So what needs to kind of compensate that, or to kind of negate that, is the players and the team playing some good football, whether that comes from fast pace, as you're saying, high pressing, leading to turnovers. In the games that we've had, we've had press teams, or we've played fast, you've seen the atmosphere. Obviously, it might have coincided with those big games against Tottenham, games against Man City that I can name, for example. But we've also seen games that we've been lethargic. Newcastle at home, Man United at home. The last game, West Ham at home, where we're just moving the ball slowly. There's no intensity, there's no intent, there's no invention, there's no risk taking, there's no that is just, do you know what I mean? Maybe one or two players are doing it, but the team as a whole ain't doing it, and us fans with it as well. I'm a fan at home watching it, and I'm pretty sure you as well. You're not there up and down,
jumping up and screaming every single minute of the game.
Imagine you're a fan in the stadium, you're not doing that as well. If the team is doing that, naturally as a fan, you're going to start to cheer.
And I'll tell you what I compare it with. It's very much comparable to the bar I go to, O'Hanlon's bar. when you start a game, almost between every game, we start off singing. You start off singing, you're chanting, you're pushing, you have the energy. But as the performance wanes, if you're under the cosh, yeah, you're gonna be back in the team. But I guess to a point where if you're under the cosh, it's just like, wow, it's a nervy feeling, it's an edgy feeling. Same thing where if you're not creating anything, we're just sitting waiting on the players to give us something to cheer for. Like I think yes, atmosphere, it needs to be a big thing, because when you go to these foreign grounds, sometimes they're singing and chanting all game long, and that's a whole different culture and that's a different atmosphere of football, and I give them credit for that. But on the same hand, English football does have its strong fan base and does have a good passionate fan base, and I don't think fans should what do they say, criticize that too harshly. But I think when it comes to the fans specifically, especially just touching on yesterday specifically, I just think the fans have, yes, their right to do, but I just think when overall these players yesterday didn't do enough to really get the crowd behind them. But it leads me to another conversation, Kip. You touched on something there. Just want to ask you about off the tangent. 22-23 season is a season where I guess it all started to look forward. We started challenging for league titles, and that was the season where Arsenal looked to take that leap of no missing out on top four to no potentially being perennial title challengers. No, this is our third season running. It was depends on how the season ends, or we'll see how far off of the title we came. But the last two seasons, we went really, really close to a title. But like you said, we didn't have the expectation to win the title going into the 22-23 season. And I think that sped up the process of maybe our journey. Not really sped up the process. Some would argue 5 years, 6 years is already too long into a process. Some would argue against. But when you look at some of the investments we've made in this squad over the last two couple of seasons, you have to ask, even though if we weren't ready, do you think no, this squad is in any position no to continue to challenge? And it goes back to what we could potentially touch on with Martin Odegaard. Do you think what overall switches would you see in this overall starting 11? Because you touched on Martin Odegaard, maybe you could lead into your points about Odegaard, maybe something else you want to touch on. But yeah, what are your overall thoughts and opinions about changes?
So are you saying with this squad as currently constructed, without any new signings, everyone fit, challenge for the league? Are you talking about like
if everyone was fit, let's just say for the sake of argument this season, because we can only focus on this season. Let's say this.
If everyone
Yeah,
was fit like this season, like
yeah,
right now, and even if the points was what it was, I'll still be encouraged that we can still win the league. I wouldn't be discouraged. And I don't think everyone and the narrative around this season, even if we had dropped points against West Ham yesterday and we had the likes of Saka and Martinelli and Havertz and Jesus were available, I don't think everyone would be like, oh, it's done. People will be like, oh, Arsenal have slipped up and maybe they've given Liverpool the chance. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think people would be like, it's done, the way everyone in universities kind of felt, because that's more because no one expects Arsenal to kind of pick up maximum points because of the fact of the lack of attackers. Not even just the fact that we have a different kind of attacker that we do need anyways.
okay.
But
So
within
okay,
saying that, I don't think that our squad, showing that like through the season, and it's not, I'm not just saying it's the squad alone, because once we do have the players, then it's the
up to the manager.
responsibility is on Mikel to play these players in the right way and in the strongest way to allow all those players to benefit and help the team. But yeah, I think we need to get a new starting nine. I think we need to get a new starting left winger. I think we need to get a new starting number 10, right CM, however, whoever plays the most attacking in the midfield. We need to get probably a starting left back, which obviously, unless Lewis Skelly is going to become at least the long to short term left back, then maybe you don't have to get a starting left back.
I actually like that you said that, because I was talking to my brother earlier and I was going through the overall systematic change I've made with this Arsenal squad. For anyone that doesn't know, I've been banging on this drum about potentially moving Odegaard back. He's already been moving back, picking up the ball from deeper positions. But we've been talking about, even before Saka was hurt, moving Nwaneri and Odegaard in the midfield together, while having maybe Declan Rice or Partey at the pivot. And I made that video about Declan Rice and Partey to preempt that, to say, well, guys, listen, Rice is a good player overall. I'd play him at the 6 in some games, but overall, as a pocket player, he's shown that when he's playing in that 8, we're not really we don't carry really that same threat in open play, and that's just the harsh reality of it. And more so if we had someone that's able to work in that space a little bit better, potentially Odegaard or Nwaneri. So I'd go with maybe Nwaneri and Odegaard, and Declan Rice or whoever we have there next season at the base. When Saka comes back, Saka's right wing position is there. I'd move Miles Lewis-Skelly out from that left back position and potentially have him as a cover for that left sided 8 position, because even off the bench last game against West Ham, that introduction of him and Zinchenko, yes, ultimately we didn't win the game, but while we were in it for that couple of 15 to 17 minutes where we were on the pitch, I mean, yes, at the same time, we didn't really create any clear-cut chances, but the ball was moving a bit quicker. That's just the standard. I mean, that just goes to show you how far off that poor performance was yesterday. But the ball was finally moving quicker. It was finally moving through the lanes a bit better. We started to have better link-up play with Trossard. Trossard, look, even for 5-10 minutes, Trossard was linking up. I saw rotation over there. The ball was moving. It was always getting... Zinchenko was getting the ball zipped into his feet. Then he plays it off the feet to Trossard. Then Trossard, Lewis-Skelly are moving to get it on that side. It was way better just to see that movement in there. So I'd move Lewis-Skelly from left back and use his abilities more so in the center of the park where he's naturally been brought through in Arsenal's youth project. Who at left back? I mean, Kieran Tierney's talk about him leaving the club. For me, since he's been playing in those other cameo games, I don't think he's really been poor. I think he had that almost full night. He started against Ipswich. I don't think he put a foot wrong in that game either. I think it might have been Ipswich. Hey, listen, if push comes to shove, and the left back market is not what you want, and Kieran Tierney, you could keep him fit, then I'd keep him around. If you're gonna get rid of Zinchenko, if you're gonna get rid of him, I wouldn't mind keeping Kieran Tierney if you're gonna potentially move on Mozu Skelly up in there, or you could definitely add, but I don't have any options off the top of my head to add. But I just want to throw Tierney a shout out there that he's not useless. He's not useless, but we definitely have to sign a midfielder. We definitely have to sign a 9. That goes without talking. That goes without mentioning. A left winger as well. We could talk about so many names. We could talk about so much stuff, but ultimately it goes back to what this board, and I want to touch on it because we can finally get into this conversation. A lot of people are upset about Odegaard's performance, not only for last game, but this entire season, and not stepping up in moments where he's needed to step up. And I just think, yes, Odegaard deserves the criticism in terms of him having that leadership role and him having to take on that responsibility. But at the same time, when I look at it, if you ask the Pedri for Barcelona to carry the weight and score goals and assists that had no attack, at the same time, you'd probably get a good Pedri performance. But is Pedri going to win you every single game? Is probably Pedri going to win you a game? Potentially not with his style of play. And I think Odegaard can do that, but ultimately, I just think we're trying to ask a player to be something he's not. That we've never seen Odegaard be that guy, even when he does have Saka or whoever to go alongside with him. So, give me your thoughts on Odegaard, and potentially, if you miraculously even do move on from him, which I don't think will happen, this board for me hasn't shown enough competence to even replace that quality. They've never shown it. So
yes, I think that's what I think. So your latter point is the main point I think people need to focus on. And when I speak on the points I make, it's not about Odegaard, the player per se. I think Odegaard is an excellent player.
Yeah.
The problem is Odegaard in the position that he's playing in the team and the quality that he has, and obviously his importance, given that he's the captain, he's one of our senior players, given he's like 26, 27 now, I think. And obviously the experience he had, Norway captain, played for Real Madrid, etc., etc. And obviously he's been in one of Arsenal's longest 7 players now in the squad, if you think about it. But in that position, he doesn't have, as you're saying, a certain characteristic traits that is needed and is obviously desired for a team at the top quality. And obviously not every player in the world has every single characteristic trait, but he doesn't have a lot of the traits. Like, for example, can't ball carry. He doesn't have great ball striking. He doesn't have a right foot, which is when you actually deep it, obviously forget the right foot, but when you the refusal to use the right foot, obviously for a player again of the quality and in his position, restricts him. He doesn't like to receive the ball in the block and in between the lines when he's been marked, for example. Obviously, Odegaard comes out of the block a lot, which, as you're saying, obviously is why you want to use him in the left center mid. And that's been something I've said for years. Obviously, use Odegaard in a different position, but obviously in a deeper position, I think it will suit him more. Obviously, Mikel has refused to change him. Maybe he doesn't believe anyone else can operate in that 10, or maybe this is Mikel versus the board all along. And even though he's squeezing the juice out of the team, he's also showing that maybe the refusal to kind of make certain changes of certain players, it's like no, because I want certain players, or I know the players and the quality I want to get. You guys always refuse to get me these players, or refuse to get that target. Arsenal not just linked to these certain players. I actually want the link because I want them, and we've kind of faintly attempted to go for them, and you might haven't got them, and you've just kind of kept the players in the team that because of costs and all that kind of stuff. Because that's what it seems to me. Because end of the day, we've been saying this for years. We've been talking about games like West Ham, Porto, Bayern, Fulham, Villa, those type of mid-block teams that for years has been our Achilles heel. 5 of the back teams that push up high, then kind of nullify our going out wide. So we need to kind of be effective in the middle, and we don't have the players, we don't have the profiles. And Odegaard is one of the mainstay. I think the reason why he gets a lot of the slander is because he's the captain and he's one of our best players. Like if you watch him, and a player that won Player of the Season for Arsenal last season, a player that was nominated and Team of the Year and for PFA Player of the Year and all that kind of stuff. You can't just for one season have a standard and then all of a sudden lower it. Arsenal fans will be quick to criticize and laugh at the likes of Cole Palmer and other players because they've been compared to Saka when they're not performing. But our own, we won't want to look at when it's affecting what we're trying to do.
Very valid.
End of the day, it's not about Odegaard. It's about the club. It's about the club are not. We're going through windows and windows. We're not addressing this situation that we need, having a creative player or buying more creative players, one that might be a more pass-heavy player. Because you're saying you need a player that can score goals, a player that can assist goals with a final ball that's deadly or very, very good, whether that's nice through balls or whipped kind of cross, like your De Bruyne's and stuff. You need a player that can drive and carry the ball through the lines, whether that's through skills or just the ability to carry the ball. And you need a player that wants to receive the ball in high areas and take risks. That's just what you need in that situation. We don't have that in our team. And even if Ethan is that, maybe he's not trusted to be used in those central areas at the age he's at, which I think when we talked about putting Ethan in the team, we spoke about it, I said put him in right wing is probably the best situation for him as a young player. Not allowing him to be in that physical duels where, he can get outmarked or he has a 6'7" guy on him. Obviously, I'm not saying he can't handle that, but it's just about the progression and allowing
him into the team, get him used to it.
So Odegaard's importance and his ability becomes more heightened because if there's anybody that's going to create a chance or allow us to, do something magical we expect to, it's going to be you, especially without the presence of Saka. With Saka being there, it shouldn't just be on Saka, but it should be on him and Saka and other players. But
I think not even to nearly go at you, but I just saying that overall has to be like fall at Mikel and also squad building on whoever is in terms of squad building, because we've talked about since Xhaka left. I think Xhaka, even for one season, miraculously gave us something that was like, okay, whoa, like that's it. Getting able to receive it in the pockets and freed up a player like Odegaard to play alongside Partey, like that profile, that tandem sitting together allowed Odegaard to just even get around the box a little bit more, get shots off. I think that's the season we scored 15 goals. I think that's his highest return ever as a professional player, whether that be in any league he's played in. Getting him in and around the box. And I think, yes, he could potentially replicate that form if that responsibility was taken off of him. But in Declan Rice, you have a player that could maybe do that, but is he that level in the pockets? I don't think so. Potentially Zubimendi. I don't know. Maybe you play Rice, Zubimendi, Odegaard. Maybe that's what they decide to go with. But even then, I think it's fishing in the same pond.
Because that's what I'm saying. At the end of the day, it's like you're looking at like obviously even if you take away obviously, and there will be whether you sell Odegaard or you don't sell Odegaard, that's down to the club and what they look at what's the best option. Obviously, I can't see how you relegate someone from being your captain, then put him on the bench.
Who just signed a deal last season.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, if he's gonna go out of your team, he has to get sold, because I don't see how it works where he just becomes a squad player after being a consistent starting captain. That's what I'm saying. But he can't be on number 10 anymore. And if you're going to sign a Zubimendi, let's just say Partey and Jorginho are gone in the summer. That's definite. So you're going to bring in a Zubimendi for the 6. You have him Rice there. Maybe you have a Lewis Skelly that can play there. Cool. You have Marino that still can play in the 8. You have Odegaard if you're going to still keep him as an 8, and you still have to sign either another 8 or another 10 or 2. Considering maybe that's depending on what you do with Fabio Vieira, or not,
Yeah,
which I probably
yeah.
believe that we're probably still going to keep anyways. So, but you still need to buy a starting 10. Let's say buy it works because you need that type of player. Odegaard becomes a non-starter because it's going to be games where you're going to put Rice at the 8, sorry, Rice at the 6, or Zubi at the 6, Rice at the 8, 10. That 10 is going to start every game because you need that profile. And it's something that we've been missing, which makes Odegaard dispensable. And sometimes, as I say, like it's not
So you
because I
don't.
don't
So no,
love.
you're saying even if we were to have maybe a Zubamendi and a Rice, you don't think Odegaard could be able to facilitate that 10 potentially?
I think he can't facilitate the 10 because he's not a 10.
Okay.
And it's like the same reason, like end of the day, Havertz can do well on the 9, but go and get Isak.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that Hazard might not have a place in his team, but then I even argue that if Havertz is not the starting in our team, obviously he still has a lot of effect. I know the play he brings, but then it's like, okay, you're just a plan B. But it's a bit different because he's not your captain. He's not been in the team for 5 years, etc., etc. Like, I'm not saying you can't do it. Obviously, it's like if you bring in a better player that's better than Odegaard and you start him or you ease them in, eventually becomes a starter. That's it. But I don't see how it happens because at the end of the day, next season we need to have a starting 9, Saka, starting left winger, a number 10, Rice at the 6, or Zubi at the 6, and Rice at the 8, or as a double pivot, or whatever it is. Obviously, certain games you might change, play 2 10s, even there, do you know what I mean? But it needs to be that because I need to see our attackers get more easy chances. That we be criticizing these attackers, obviously. And yes, Saka scores a lot of goals, even within the lack of, the amount of chance creation that we have in our team. But imagine if we had more chance creation. Imagine we had more easier chance creation. That these players are getting nice free balls on time, on accuracy, on weight to the runs that they're making all the time. Or if they're, I'm saying, if they're getting more chances. Obviously, yeah, maybe then there's a question about if they miss chance. But then imagine that. Imagine Martinelli's getting just easy balls running in behind 1v1s.
And it surprises me that we've. And I'm here sitting thinking we're talking about restructuring this midfield. I'm surprised that we've managed to end up with a midfield like this that has been so off balance in terms of chance creation. It's such a massive regression over what we've seen from 2 years ago. It brings a lot of questions.
But Steph, this is why I'm saying it because it all goes back to the board. We just seen the board go through. Like, forget even just the midfield, because the midfield is a different question in itself, which is going to pose another question because 2 players who knows, like, supposedly are out of contract to play in a position that are and they're very good players as well, but they're obviously at the older stage of their career, and you still have to replace them, let alone the attackers that 2 of your 9s are basically out for the rest of the year.
And not to mention about those, before you even add on, but not to mention those 2 midfielders are potentially 2 of the best at that specific instruction at that position.
Mikel needs and that he's seen that he needs to play.
Best
and let's just say Zubamendi is the player that comes in next. Cool, that's fine because he can do that job in it. Cool. Rice can do that job as well. That's fine. Cool. The 6 is kind of completed. You have Lewis Skelly who can play 6 and can probably do that. The role that Partey and Jorginho do. So that's fine for me, and I'm not worried about that when you have players that can do that. It becomes the opposite. But then forget that we still have the attack, and the board let a January go where Saka's been injured and had to get surgery, and you knew that he was going to be out probably first of the season. 10 days later, 12 days later, Jesus now pulls his ACL, and he's probably out for the season. So that's 2 players, and 2 players that were in that at the time were in the best form in the team in terms of the attackers getting scoring goals and getting assists. Out. Obviously, now you already know you're going to have to load more of these other players that are left, which means that they're probably going to get injured at some point or run into the ground, which means they're not going to be informed. One of the 2. The incompetence of the board showed that they're not going to do that. This is the same incompetence that they showed last summer when they didn't get the attacker or get the 9 that we should have got after coming 2 points close, 2 or 3 points off winning the league, getting close to being Bayern and talking about, we need that spark and need that, someone that can give us a moment. Didn't Mikel say that after the game? Didn't they say that Arsenal are trying to look for a player that can, win them that kind of game? We didn't bring Sterling, that player. Like, this is the same club. You just put that here. And I feel like I've kind of smelt the same stench now. So I've kind of I don't know how to feel. I'm not trying to be that bare negative. It's just more the board.
No, you're speaking the real, brother.
The incompetence of the board makes me say, yes, I can't see how we can't go into summer, especially with the time and the change in the squad, and not spend money and buy certain players. But are we going to get to September 1st, wherever the January, the summer window closes, and say, do you know what? fam, the squad that we have, I'm confident. And with XY said player coming back from injury in a month or two as well, I don't think I'm gonna have that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So off the back of not winning the league to Liverpool, who obviously respect to them, but obviously as again, I still will back down. They've been the best team in the league this season, but I don't think they've been miles above us, even with our injured team. And if we have a fully fit squad, I feel like we would have given them a real challenge, maybe potentially one. And that's still not the same level of quality of attackers and experienced play that they have, but that's fine. That's going to be discouraging for us because we're going to go in with that pain, and that's going to put pressure on the team, put pressure on Mikel, put pressure on the club. If we don't do the business that at least, because you have to know how to put out fires. Us as fans are still going to have expectation, but then if you sign and do the business, then we go into next season saying, do you know what? Last season we had injuries, we didn't do the business in January. Fam, it was shit. But fam, fuck. Look at our squad right now. Look at the 9. Look at the left wing. Look at the 10s. Fam, we got XYZ player coming back from injury. Let's fucking go. Cool. But are you confident we're gonna do that, Steph? Because how do you feel, fam?
Bro, I was gonna say I agree with that latter part you said. I have no confidence. Not even confidence. I don't even know what we're gonna do anymore. KP, I have no clue because there's literally like everything Arsenal. I think this is one January when this is one window in general. Every single Arsenal fan has been unanimous in terms of what they'd like to see the club do, and it's not like Arsenal fans even came into the window having gaudy expectations, saying, "Okay, let's sign Isak this summer or nothing. Let's spend 150 million or nothing. Let's spend, bro. You didn't even at least spend 50. You didn't spend no money. You didn't even get a dry loan. And when you look at Villa, who have 2 dry loan players scoring and assisting to win them a football match 1-0 down against Chelsea. That's just one example. You look at Randall Colomwani, have Vlahovic on the bench. Vlahovic is parked on the bench, can't get no minutes because Randall Colomwani is killing it. We're talking about players who are all over Europe right now, getting deals done. West Ham are playing for nothing right now. They've got Evan Ferguson off the bench. Who do we have? Who do we have? And KP ultimately say this: Arteta will get a lot of the brunt from a lot of the fan base, and I don't think he should be fully absolved from taking his criticism, because I do think he's played a part in our footballing on the field regressing to some extent in terms of the structure of a midfield, in terms of certain decisions he's made, in terms of rotating the side in and out and making certain calls on certain players and players leaving the club that he's allowed to let leave the club when we've been late in other areas, whether that be Edu not doing his job or whether that be them not doing their job in tandem or whether the board forcing them out to get profit. At the end of the day, this squad, I should say, was light going in to start the season. There's no way how we went through that January, knowing we needed players before Saka got injured. We lost 2 of our main players, still signed no one, and lost 2 more players. My expectations for the season, and like I said earlier at the top of the pod, I hope the players don't get into this mentality. But I'm watching the season. I'm supporting the boys. I'm enjoying every single game for its game merit. I want to see us score goals. I want to see us win games because I can't watch football and not feel those things. I literally can't. I literally can't just watch empty-handed. My emotions are just wrapped up in this all the way. But every single my expectations in terms of silverware, unless we see a radical change by this board that we've seen. How many times, KP, and I wanted to make this final point about Odegaard. Even if we talk about letting Odegaard go, letting go one of these crucial players we heavily invest in. We've let go of Van Persie before. We've let go Alexis Sanchez before. We've let go Thierry Henry before. We've let go countless of our top players, countless of them, and we've never been able to restructure after that, or we've never seen the board lose those top players and get them back. Look who it has to be. We got Odegaard on a low. We got Odegaard on a cheap deal, on a cut price, I should say. We got Saka coming through the academy. Those are our best 2 players. A cheap deal and an academy player. Like, when is a lot? I mean, Declan Rice, yes, we spent big money. We've done well there, but we spent big money on the 6. No money has been spent in that attacking line. And that's the first thing fans are going to look at. So unless this board decides to go and really radicalize this development of this squad, my expectations again are we'll see what happens. Because I think and every season we've been to, we started the season at such a high, and the low feeling, the expectation for the following season gets lower and lower and lower. And this season is hit to a point where we say last season it was like, okay, let's really do it. No, next season is gonna be, well, We'll see.
Like it's like on whatever they do in the
We'll
summer is
see.
what's gonna
Literally,
like
we'll see.
lead.
And that's
It's
the
gonna
worst
lead.
place to be as a club. The worst
Yeah, like
place.
it's whatever they do in the summer is what's gonna kind of lead our feeling going into the season. Like if they go to sign a Isak, sign Liao or William, sign a 10, sign second goalkeeper, sign a left back, sign opportunity signing. Do you know what I mean? Then we might say cool. Do you know what I mean? Sign a couple of young, exciting players that can add to the team. You might say cool. If they don't, get a couple of bargain signings here, cheaper, unwanted players from this club here and there. Do you know what I mean? Like, then the feeling will enter, man. But yeah, like it's not to highlight specifically on Odegaard as the player. Like I'm saying, like sometimes it's like if the club
I
clearly
get
are
you.
not the club clearly are not like Chelsea or City that can buy a player. It
Yeah.
doesn't work, to do well to sell him out or just put him on the bench and then sign another player in that position for either more money or the same amount of money. And the club are not serious, because even within this summer, like you do the business. That doesn't mean when you get to January, you're not looking at what opportunities are there, getting another player, getting to next summer, okay, getting another backup 10, getting another backup. Like, this is what you have to do. You have to keep
Always progressing. And I
like,
think Mikel talked about it. You cannot let a window pass and you don't upgrade, because that means teams will surpass you. But not to cut you off, let you finish your point.
no, you're right, man. And it's just sad because I was just saying, like, you talked about obviously top four early in this in the episode, and I think we'll finish second at minimum. Not saying that it's certified. I just think we'll win more of the games than we'll lose or drop points. And the other teams, just especially this weekend, every other team below us lost apart from Newcastle, like Forest, City, Chelsea, Bournemouth. It was only Newcastle that won. Obviously, they beat Forest, but yeah, Arsenal. Obviously, we'll see what happens on Wednesday against Forest. Obviously, I'm not as encouraged, but I'm not as discouraged because at the end of the day, it was a bad game. But Arsenal always seem to have some good bounce back ability. That's one thing I always say about us. Seems that whenever we lose a game, the next game we seem to respond in some type of way, which obviously I'm hoping that we do. The sad thing about it. So go on.
No, I was gonna lead on to something, but I'll let you finish your point again. Sorry.
I was just the sad thing about it, like I think it was what I was trying to say, like about the Mikel Merino starting strike thing, is that obviously if it doesn't go well in the beginning, you don't have a plan B on the bench. That obviously Mikel does, fam. Butler, Deji's there. I can't lie. At the end of the day, fam, you don't know what he's on. You don't know what he could do. He's an attacking player that plays strike. He knows the position at least, and he's 22. He's not like he's a baby. He might as well. Obviously, I know he's quite small for his position. You might as well. Like, what are you really going to lose than playing a player that's not playing in his natural position, and then obviously not having an option B to bring on. Like, as I'm saying, obviously it's not going to happen. But that's what my fear about why I was saying probably might as well have started Sterling, because it was like, at least then it doesn't work. You can have the physical option to bring on to kind of change up the way you play. If you start off the Mikel Merino, there's no plan B, and then it's a situation of what we saw.
Yeah, so I do want to ask about that, because going into the Forest game, like you said, I'm not really deflated or beat up about it too much. I'm going into that game same way. Like, let's just see what we could do. I know the attack is limited. I expect us to. I hope, because we've been caught so many times this season, KP, again on a counter attack. You can look at Fulham. You can look at. I don't want to start running through the games in my head, but so many times we've been caught on a counter attack that's been just like, how did we get beat by two passes? How did 3 passes beat us to a goal? How? After we've done prodded, we've given up some of the easiest goals this season. And for a team that hasn't conceded a lot of goals and a lot of chances, it's just sometimes goals we do concede, it's just like that goal though. Like that goal.
I think do you know what it is? Yeah, it's two things. We don't play like that, and it takes us so many minutes to fashion a good chance in the game compared like when I'm watching other Prem teams, I'm watching other clubs and stuff. And obviously, don't get me wrong, some teams in games suffer and don't create as much chances. But I watch us. It's like, yeah, like we have control of possession, but we're not making any chances, or we're not making any real chances or any clear cut chances. We're making openings, maybe sometimes. Getting near close, maybe, but it's not like. And even if when we're in games where we do score goals, we're still not making so many chances. We've just been clinical with the chances that we've made, and it's
What changes would you make for Forest? Any significant changes you'd make for Forest lineup wise?
it's
Maybe just even not even to Frasley ahead, but even maybe a Ben White comes in, maybe give Timber a sit down just for a game or not. Maybe you have Calafiori against start. He has to start, or maybe you bring in a Tierney, Zinchenko. What would you think there?
I can start. I can start kind of. Don't know, man. Calafiori is not good against wingers. Keep on saying this. He's not good, and against the likes of Elanga, Hudson Odoi that are probably going to be playing against. I don't think he's going to do well against them. I don't want him playing against them. I just remembered what's happening. But without Lewis Skelly, maybe a Tierney,
maybe
Zinchenko even, because at least on the ball I know what he can offer. Probably Tierney, and I don't mind the Ben White shout. Not just why not just mix it up. And I'll put Butler.
Sterling from the start this time. Moreno.
No, I would put Butler or Deji from the start. I'll put Butler Deji from the start. I'll start the same. Sterling, Trossard and Ranieri. And the midfield three is just got to be the same, really. It's got to be. It doesn't have to be the same, but obviously I know Rice will be burning from getting taken off early, knowing the type of play, especially the type of performances he's been putting in the last couple of weeks. Obviously, he didn't play well in this game, but obviously he would be burning because he probably be looking at I've been watching Odegaard stink up the place for weeks, and I've been carrying us obviously, especially through the good results and the wins that we've been getting. And then now in the game that obviously I'm having my first bad game, he's still playing bad. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? So he'll probably start and have a bit of vengeance, bit of anger, knowing the type of player he is. But yeah, that's it. I don't
any shows for some youth players? No, I mean it's sad to see because I just thought about Salah. We came across my head, scored a good goal for the youth academy this week. It's sad to see because I thought, to be honest, in preseason he looked pretty good. I was very surprised that he didn't get into the squad a lot more this season. It was very surprised.
I was gonna make a video about him. I remember okay, we're talking about Saladin. I think Sago Jr. is injured, so I wouldn't go with him. Cabia, if he's available, I'll put them in the squad.
What's the youth striker? The 17-year-old guy, the 17-year-old kid.
Oh,
that scored a lot of goals. Anus.
Anus, I think his name is. Why not? To me, why not? Any idea?
I say that to say, not even to start. I'm not even thinking about them starting, but I'm tired of looking at the bench and seeing 5 left backs, bro.
But I'm on the stage of if he's putting them there, you're bringing them on with at least a decent amount of time.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And especially even if the game is on the line, you might as well. And obviously, some fans might come out and criticize and say, "Oh, you're putting on young players. The title's not necessarily over. You're throwing it away if it doesn't go well." And I'll look at it like we've seen in the last few games. The only option we could bring on is Marino, and that's okay. What it worked in one game, magical. It didn't really work in the other game, which obviously that's one up, one down, which you can't really be critical of. But we've seen how the team's already been playing outside of Marino, and we still had Saka, Martinelli, Havertz. There's no all of a sudden this team all of a sudden going to start creating a million chances, and Marino's gonna get a million chances in one year. So yeah, I'll just make those changes, and if not, just try and win the game. Obviously, Liverpool face Newcastle. Still a difficult attack for them to cover. Yeah, they'll be a bit more confident, but they played City, albeit City are wounded animal, just laying down, ready to get smashed by everyone. Whilst obviously Newcastle, albeit the defense is leaky themselves, they do have good attackers which can cause obviously Liverpool problems. Obviously, that's the same day we play Forest, which is a difficult game in ourselves. But Forest are kind of in a bit of bad form right now, and they've lost 3 games in a row, if I'm correct, since that 7-0 game that they won. So, we come back with a loss. Let's see what we can do, but we can only try and win, and we can really try and play well. What I just want to see, just play risky, play free. Because if you're going to try and win the Champions League, we already know that we're good defensively. You got to try and be a bit more inventive, because teams in Champions League tend to always be good defensively because they're a different type of team, different leagues. Try and be a bit more inventive, a bit more risky, a bit more fearful in how you play. And if it doesn't work, at least then we'll say we tried. Like we can't be ending games and just being discouraged by the fact that we can't remember a clear-cut chance or just one in the whole 90 minutes. Like you don't win leagues and you can't call yourself a good team if that's what you're doing.
Yeah, I agree
So,
with you, KP. Well, that's where we're gonna end today, guys. Thank you for all the love and support you've shown to both our channels. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to Gunner Street and K-Pass Pausa. I mean, we ended on kind of a sour one, but ultimately we could just look forward and do what we could do as fans. What I beg fans to do is just give your energy to the team as much as they can. Don't let the football club mash up your head. Don't let this football club ruin your days, ruin your weeks, ruin your relationships with people in your life. Just do what you just enjoy life, brother. At the end of the day, because you can't go in the boardroom and sign anyone. That's the outlook I'm going to have on it. I can't sign anyone. I can't make these players score the goals. I'm not out
yeah.
there. I'm not doing. There's nothing I could do. But just give me.
And at the end of the day, these players that are playing, and I'm going to keep on saying this, like most people, most Arsenal fans, even the most optimistic fan will probably say the league is a big stretch at this point right now. So there's, as I say, at the beginning of the pod, there's a kind of a peace and a calm of it. Still support the boys, still support these guys, because at the end of the day, it's not their fault that they don't have the help or they don't have other options. Both Mikel as well, whether you're Mikel in and out, like if there was to be a miracle that's happened this season, these players are still going to need our support. They're still going to need the encouragement, and
Every single game.
obviously, let's just hope like we don't have performances like West Ham again. Obviously, again, like realistically,
Literally.
and then obviously once we get to the summer, we can reassess everything properly when there's the pressure is fully on the board and not the players that are actually playing. Do you know what I'm saying? So,
Yep.
yeah.
But like I said, people, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Thank you for all the love and support. Thank you for joining us. I will catch you again on the next one. Peace, people.